Looking for a guaranteed way to create content that resonates with your audience? Start a podcast, interview your ideal clients, and let them choose the topic of the interview. Because if your ideal clients care about the topic, there's a good chance the rest of your audience will care about it too. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. I'm your host for today's episode, Logan Lyles, Director of Partnerships here at Sweetfish Media. I am joined today by Stephen Levi Carter. He is the CEO and co-founder of Sterling Staffing Solutions. He is also the co-author of Double Your Success. Stephen, how's it going today, man?
Pretty good, Logan. Thanks for having me on the show. Very excited to be here.
We love interviewing CEOs of fast-growing companies and noticed some of the growth that Sterling has been experiencing. So really excited to have you share your experience with our audience today. Stephen, as we get into this, before we do, I would love for you to share just a little bit about what you and the team at Sterling Staffing Solutions are up to these days.
Excellent. Thanks, Logan, for asking. So, Sterling Staffing Solutions is a healthcare staffing company located in the greater Houston metropolitan area. We operate or provide staffing for healthcare companies or affiliates within the industry in the state of Texas and in Oklahoma. Primarily, we are in Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, Tulsa, and Oklahoma City. And our niche is home health. And so we do a lot of staffing of therapists and nurses to home health agencies. And our clinicians go and see patients in their home, which has actually been the move for a while in the healthcare realm, is to get back to kind of the old school way of things and provide services to people in a more familiar and comfortable environment where they tend to respond better and heal faster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And definitely, obviously, growing need there within the healthcare market. So excited to dig in to see, how you guys have scaled and grown your business to meet with that, growing demand in the market. And what I know that you wanted to touch on today, Stephen, is, this idea of consistent improvement, both personally and professionally, and how that attributes to the business growth. So let's jump right in there, Stephen. Some of the common pitfalls you mentioned to avoid, whether you're an executive or you're leading a fast-growing team, to be aware of is, this lack of structure and proper delegation. If you guys have scaled your team, I'm sure you've experienced this at times or, thankfully avoided it. So tell us a little bit on that topic a little bit.
Absolutely. So I think the first concept is that we have to build a company in preparation for the future. And what that means is that when you're in the startup phase and you're just getting things going, the CEO pretty much wears multiple hats. He or she may be, the payroll specialist, the operations director, the VP of sales, many roles, many different hats. And obviously you have to do those to get the company off the ground and kind of put it on your back and take it to the next level. But at some point, your company, you're going to start getting some momentum. Things are moving well, and you're just not going to be able to basically do every role in the company yourself. And you're going to have to bring in a talented group of people in order to help take your company to the next level and achieve the vision that you have for the company. And so what that essentially means is that, one, you need to have the proper structure in place. And so taking enough time to determine what type of structure makes sense. I think that one of the things that we had to do was that we had to make sure that we had a separation of duties that made sense, so that there's a check and balance in different areas. So if someone was preparing the report for instance, was for payroll, that same person would not actually cut the checks in themselves, because there's an area there of fraud, and could be any number of different areas that you need to make sure that you have the right person on the right job. They're focused on that one task so that they can master that task. So having the right structure in place is very, very important. And obviously we always hear that you're supposed to hire people that are smarter than you. So it's all about building the right team. I mean, staffing is what we do. So one of the things that we spend a lot of time on is making sure that we hire the right people. So if you have the right people in place, have the right structure in place, spend a lot of time on standard operating procedures, policies, and processes. I'm a military guy. I come from a military background, and I'm very disciplined. One of the things that has always impressed me when you think about the military is that you got these young guys right out of high school. They're coming out. They're wielding these M16s or whatever killing machine that they have, and these kids, if you will, are still a little wet behind the ears. So how does the military train someone who just left high school to be able to handle such a very deadly machine? And the key to that is having processes, procedures in place, things that have been tested over and over again to make sure that any person at any level can do the job and get the job done. So what we've done is implemented that same strategy within our company, and I recommend that for everyone out there, is to implement a strategy and a process that will lead to success every time.
Mm-hmm. Stephen, you touched on something there about, and you've been through it as a CEO yourself. In the early startup phases, you're wearing a lot of hats, and you kind of have to have this delicate balance of, when to let go and when to start delegating so that you can continue to scale. Was that an especially tough thing for you to do, or you see other CEOs struggle with, that tipping point on the scale when you need to start delegating certain things that you've always kind of owned before?
Absolutely. I mean, I think for me that there's so many people that speak about that, taking, I guess really rather having that aha moment when you realize that, one, you're not the smartest person in the room, and someone else may be smarter and can do the job better. And then two, that you cannot do it all. And so, if it's the pressure that you're putting on your family, at home, time away from your kids, or even health-related issues, stress, maybe high blood pressure, whatever the case may be, you start to realize that I'm killing myself over here trying to do it all. And I'm not doing a great job at everything. I mean, I'm halfway doing everything, and nothing is really great. And so you realize that at that point, and hopefully you realize it before that, then that it's time to look at doing things different. And what happens, throughout your business is that initially, in the very beginning, you may not be able to hire on the best employee that you'd like to have, right? So no one's going to start out with the Google type engineer that can, hit a home run every time. And so you make up for that with your processes and procedures to make sure that you're going to make that person successful no matter what skill set that they bring to the table. But as you continue to grow, and at that step, by the way, as a CEO, you are still spending more time helping, strategizing, coaching, all of that to those employees, because you got to coach them up to the level that you want them to be. But as your business grows, then so should the upgrade process. We tend to say that we're upgrading our talent over here, is that we start to be where our business is growing, and we're at a position where we can afford to get that higher quality talent to come in place. And the higher quality the talent, the less coaching that is needed, and the more output, the more productivity you get from that person. But to answer your question, I think that there's an aha moment that happens for every CEO where you realize that you just don't have the time nor the energy to do it all. And for me, it was also just, reading a lot, researching a lot, and looking into successful CEOs and how they were able to take their company to the next level. And what you hear and you see over and over again is the ability to let go and let those that are better at what they do to take on that. And you keep looking to the vision and being a leader for your organization.
Mm-hmm. And you touched on it there a little bit, keeping your eye on the vision and remaining, in that leadership role, even though you're not doing it all, Stephen. So as you make that transition, like you said, whether you see it before the bad indicators or afterward, but you realize that tipping point, you make that shift to further delegation. Now, as you and I were talking about offline beforehand, is that, the pitfall could be to become not as relevant as you were when you were really plugged in and doing a lot of things with the business, and to become stagnant personally. And if that happens, it could lead to stagnation for the business. So that next phase, as you start to, continue to focus on the vision, even though you're not in the trenches as much with your team, tell us a little bit about navigating that as you continue to grow your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things for me, and before I started on my track of opening my own company, I worked in corporate America and worked with Fortune 500 companies, and they have obviously a very defined structure as it pertains to professional development, and every manager is required to do so many courses in professional development and continue to grow. But what happens is when you step out on your own, you're CEO, you're running your own thing. Obviously, the time that you have available to continue to learn, you want to put more time into the business, and so it seems that more and more that professional growth and development tend to not have the time to put in that you need to. But that's almost the opposite of where we need to go. I mean, when you're owning your own business and you're doing your own thing, you need to spend even more time learning and growing and understand where the trends are in the marketplace, what's happening differently. A couple of things that I suggested that people do is, one, as much as possible, pick up trade magazines, periodicals, newspapers. I mean, there's a lot of blogs that you can get signed up to where the email information comes right to you in regards to any new futurist type methodologies or concepts that are being looked at other companies, and just continue to kind of keep up with what's happening in the workplace and in your industry. I mean, you just think about Borders Bookstore. I mean, everyone always talks about Borders. You think about how they had the kind of historical bookstore where they felt like everyone wanted to have the traditional feel of having a hardcover book in their hand, and being able to fill the pages and read, and having going online and doing an Amazon type of thing and having ebooks just was not even something that they thought would even be any part of the future. In fact, Amazon actually approached Borders about doing a joint venture acquisition at some point. And Borders just blew those guys off and said, no, that's not the wave of the future. We're okay. We're just going to keep on doing what we've been doing. And obviously, we know now what's going on with Amazon and what happened to Borders. I mean, the story is that they were stagnant. They didn't see the change in the industry and what was happening next. They weren't keeping their pulse to the ground, as you would say, and they didn't know what their buyers, what their clients wanted, what their customers wanted, and so they missed the boat. And that is a huge, huge lesson that I think we can all learn from, to say that you constantly have to be looking to see what's next, because the biggest form of appreciation is duplication. So what can happen is that obviously we started our company in 2011, and we basically saw someone else that was doing something similar but wasn't doing it as well as we thought. And so we just took their concept and we tweaked it, and we did it just a little bit better. And that's what most companies that are successful do, is that they're not reinventing the wheel. They're not creating some brand new thing that's never been done before. They are taking the concept of an existing company and they're tweaking it a little bit, and they're making it just a little bit better, and they're able to enter in the market and make a difference. And so if you know that's how you got into the business and you got into the marketplace, then you've got to know that every other new entrepreneur that's coming into this business, into this marketplace, is trying to do the same thing. They're looking at what you're doing and they're trying to adjust and do it a little bit better. So how are you going to stay relevant? How are you going to stay hungry? How are you going to stay focused?
Today's growth story is about an enterprise all-flash storage hardware vendor serving 20% of Fortune 100 companies. But here's the issue. They were struggling to engage with prospects across different territories. With a goal of growing their customer base, this hardware vendor decided to work with a partner on high-impact direct mail delivered to over 800 profiled leads across the UK, France, South Africa, Denmark, Sweden, and Finland. This resulted in a 54.4% increase in total contract value. Wow. So who is the partner that delivered these results with direct mail? MRP Prolytics. MRP Prolytics is an insights-powered account-based marketing platform with streaming predictive analytics baked into its core. Integrating multi-channel ABM execution on these insights, MRP Prolytics triggers display, email, direct mail, and global inside sales in real time, helping the largest marketing departments in the world deliver the right message to their customers at just the right time. So could MRP Prolytics work for you too? There's a real good chance it could. Find out by visiting mrpfd.com or click the link in the episode description of this interview. All right, let's get back to the show.
Yeah, I think you've got to keep that mindset. On our team at Sweetfish, the leadership team is currently reading a book called Radical Candor by Kim Scott, a lot about communication within a team and building a team. You know, the section I'm in right now is talking about how you build a team for, consistent innovation. And to your point, Stephen, you've got to continually be learning and keeping, your eye on the future of the market that you serve. And there was a line in the book, I'm probably not going to quote it exactly perfectly myself, but, it's basically that 1,000 little innovations are very tough to replicate. One big idea can be easy to copy. To your point, there are people looking at your big ideas or your big, go-to-market splash, and you may think, you do that and you're safe for a bit, but we forget that one big idea is somewhat easy to replicate, but a lot of little innovations that are baked into your product, your service, your processes, your customer experience, those things go a long way to keep you kind of future-proofed as a business. The last thing I know you wanted to touch on here, Stephen, was, continuous goal setting and this idea of resetting of goals. So, as you continue to cast the vision and lead the troops as the CEO, Stephen, tell us a little bit about how this resetting of continuous goals plays into your consistent role as the CEO and as you continue to grow your business.
Yeah, it's a great question, Logan. And goals are kind of a funny thing. I think that as CEOs, I think that what we really want to see happen is we want to push our team to the limit to obtain or to reach goals that they never thought was possible, right? And that's essentially the definition of a visionary leader is to be able to impart the motivation in your team to be able to reach a level that they never thought was possible themselves. And so that's what we want, right? And so we set these goals. We want them to reach that level. We give them the tools. We give them the coaching that they need to get there. And then maybe we miss the goals and maybe we hit them and it's great. But what happens is that with goals is that they can not only be a motivator, but they can also be a demotivator. So if your goals are too high, if they're too much pie in the sky, then your team becomes demotivated because they're just like, oh, there's no way I'll ever reach that goal. So why even try? I just give up, just give up. And so that's why you always have to continue to assess and reassess your goals. And just talking about for us here locally, we had a goal put in place, and we said that, hey, listen, guys, if we hit this goal by the end of the year, the entire company is going on a cruise. We're going to take you, your loved one, on a cruise and have a great vacation. And everyone's excited at the very beginning of the year, and they were pushing hard. But then as we realized about mid-year that, we're not on track to hit this goal, and our team is pushing really hard, but they're starting to become less motivated because they don't see the forest for the trees. And so we got to give them something that's attainable. These goals need to be specific, smart, your normal SMART goals, but we have to be able to give them something that's attainable. And that means that you have to constantly look at the goals, reset the goals, look at the goals, and reset the goals. It's not just a one-time and done process. You need to re-engage with those on a continuous basis, and don't be afraid to adjust when you need to.
Yeah, I love that. That's very good advice for anyone leading a team. Definitely, Stephen. Well, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate you sharing some of your nuggets of wisdom from growing teams yourself, Stephen. If anybody would like to find out more about some of these topics from you, pose any follow-up questions, stay connected, find the book, Double Your Success, what would be the best way for them to reach out or go about doing that, Stephen?
Absolutely. So our company website is sterlingstaffingsolutions.com, which tells you all about the services that we provide. Actually, our website associated with our book, Double Your Success Principles to Build a Multi-Million-Dollar Business, is under thecarterbrothers.com. My twin brother, actually, Dr. Sterling Carter, and I wrote the book about our success with our companies, and so we're excited to share those nuggets. Which again, it's just a book of great ideas and things that we've learned by bumping our head against the wall, and something that we love to share with the public to hopefully have you guys avoid going through some of the pitfalls that we went through. But definitely there, and then we're also on LinkedIn and all the social media sites, Facebook and Instagram and things of that nature. But just a simple search for Sterling Staffing Solutions should get you there.
All right. Well, Stephen, thank you so much for being on the show, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Digital marketing agencies have a tough job. You have to stay on top of the latest marketing strategies for your clients and your agency. What if there was a way you could address both at the same time? Imagine your agency putting out content with greater quality and quantity. Envision bringing your clients a turnkey solution for one of B2B marketing's fastest growing media strategies, podcasting. You know, all those clients asking for your help with their account-based marketing efforts? Picture being the first to bring them the idea of content-based networking, showing them the proven strategy for breaking into their most coveted accounts. Here's the concept. Sweetfish Media is looking to work with a limited number of innovative agencies interested in a new partnership model. We produce a podcast for your agency at no cost. You introduce the power of podcasting and Sweetfish services to your clients. Everybody wins. Learn more at sweetfishpartners.com.